the lead organizer for Justice for Wyandotte and the chair for the Commission on Social Justice for Grant Chapel AME Church in Kansas City, Kansas. I'm here to talk about my relationship with Alvin Sykes as his executive assistant while he was doing the Emmett Till Justice campaign. We traveled around the country to open up cold cases related to civil rights activists that were murdered at the hands of white supremacists. And we did that for a long time. One of the very interesting things that I can remember about Alvin is that he always told me to always go to the head person, that if you wanted to get something done, you really needed to talk directly to who's at the top and let them delegate whatever it is that needed to be done. And so I always took that in my presence with me. Alvin was also very determined. He meditated a lot on different issues, and that's how we made change, is that he listened to the voice inside of him. I do the same thing. I'm not a Buddhist, I'm a Christian, but I definitely do the same thing when it comes to analyzing things and research. He really taught me how to research. I wouldn't be able to be working as a victims advocate in Wyandotte County and open up cases had it not been for the research I learned from Alvin Sykes. I also use his signature, I am. He taught me early on that you really need to confirm who you are and always have that confidence of who you are. It will carry you wherever you need to go and whatever way. And looking at Alvin with all the obstacles that he had in life, that definitely was the perseverance and the endurance that he had, that made him an overcomer and the first ever African American to create legislation who is not an elected official in the United States. And I just don't think that there is enough credit given to him at this time, in, in, in what I call remarkable history making. I can recall several accounts of where we had to go around the city collecting money for different times. We had to travel across the country. I remember my family volunteering to take us to Donald Berger services. And I can recall the impact of losing Donald Berger, just as I can recall the impact of losing Alvin Sykes now. One story I do want to share with you was during the time when we were trying to open up the Steve Harvey investigation to his cold case. He was killed in the Liberty Memorial. He was a saxophone player and one of Alvin's closest friends. And one time, Steve Harvey had the comedian had come into town, and I know he had a show, the morning show or whatever. I can't remember what show he had live where he traveled around the country. Well, anyway, he was here for this particular live show and he had a VIP party. And we got some tickets from KPRS to attend this VIP party to talk to Steve Harvey about, being an advocate for open up the case since they had the same name. And we sat around in this party for a while. And I remember telling Alvin, like, you really need to get up and talk to Steve now because these people don't stick around. Like, no, I'm going to wait around because, I want my time with him by myself. And I don't recall what building we were in downtown, but whatever it was, this party was hosted where it was on the top floor and the elevator was the first place that you entered into. And so Steve Harvey got ready to leave. And, it's one of those things, the minute you step on the elevator, it's going down. And so I said, Alvin, come on, let's go, let's go. So we ran toward the elevator and they had already been on there for a few seconds. So we ran inside of the elevator and it was nephew Tommy, it was Steve Harvey who was laying against like the buttons of the elevator. And it was the security. And where I'm facing the security and nephew Tommy and Alvin just immediately starts talking to Steve Harvey. And at this time, this is when he first got his teeth. And so he hadn't really established, really talking with his teeth. I think it maybe been like the second day or so. And so he began to talk to Steve in this elevator, giving him an elevator speech. and talking real fast, and his teeth began to chatter. And Steve Harvey was like, man, after he got finished, he said, what in the world did you say to me, man? I don't know what you was doing. I thought you was going to attack me. And it was so much tension in this elevator that, we all just broke down laughing. But Steve Harvey just kept going on and on and on about Alvin, just approaching him the way he did in that elevator. And it was really hilarious. The next morning, me and Alvin went to see him on his live show. And Alvin has a way of finessing things. So, of course, we're backstage and we were eating, the VIP food. And I honestly think we were put out of the VIP room. But anyway, we maneuvered our way to where they asked questions. And you had to basically step up to this like roped off fence, plastic fence or whatever. And so Alvin maneuvered me to the front, and I'm in the front. And so I get up there and I say, well, Steve Harvey, last night we caught you in the elevator, and we wanted to reopen Steve's case, Steve Harvey's, the musician. And he said, man, you the one that caught me up in the elevator. Anyway, he went on and on joking about us to finally tell us that, that was something that he was just not interested in doing. Um, but it was an interesting thing, and we often found ourselves in situations where Alvin maneuvered at least me to the front of the room to take care of business and to handle whatever he needed, especially if we didn't know a person. It would our day-to-day job was something that if there was news in the paper, if Cleaver was going to be somewhere, the mayor was going to be somewhere, if there was something significant about legislation, we were there. It didn't matter if we had an ounce of gas, we was there. It didn't matter if we didn't know how we were going to get back. We were there. And I think it's strongly because of his belief in justice for African Americans and the legacy of human and civil rights and the spirit that it carries. I can't say that all the times that we had were good times. There were plenty of down times, but the most rewarding thing was when I sat in the Department with that table, and Eric Holder was at the head of the table, and I sit right next to him, and I just felt like I was in, in awe in a world that I hadn't arrived in yet, honestly. And one thing I'm gonna leave you with is Alvin deeming me as the next Rosa Parks. He said Rosa Parks was a seamstress, and she was a married woman, and she had it all intact. It wasn't something that she had to do, but felt compelled to do. I've since taken on that, and I've also taken on the challenge of carrying on Alvin's legacy. No matter how difficult that may be, it is the spirit of human rights and civil rights, and not to be delicate or leaving anything out, but it is also very important that Emmett Till and Mamie Till lives on, because what we face in brutality is that example from the beginning, from the start, of seeing young Black boys murdered, young men emancipated, young men in prison, um, wrongfully convicted. It is the foundation of that, and I'm so grateful to have worked with him. It was an honor, and I will forever be humbled by what God has placed in my presence throughout my life, and he was one of the great ones. So thank you. I am Khadija.
Good afternoon. My name is James Watts. I am the ombudsman for the Black Archives of Mid America. Executive director is Dr. Carmeletta Williams, and I'm here today to remember Alvin Lee Sykes. I am remembered in 1976 that I met about 75, 76. I met Alvin Lee Sykes at 27th and Prospect at what we call the Big House. It was the SAC 20's house on 27th and Prospect. And I started working there in about 75, 76 for the late great Bernard Powell. And I can remember Alvin being there on the porch. I can see him right now, just like it was yesterday, laughing. And he had his tam on. I think he was just recently out of the Marines. And I met him there. And so over the years, we would have casual conversations. I was not extremely close with Alan, but I mean with Alvin, but he always recognized me when I saw him, and I recognized him. He was he was one of the few guys that I know in my life, in my 71 years, is that as an adult, that he had less than most of us, but he was servant driven, and he portrayed and lived the image of service above self. And I think that's a great honor for any woman or man to live on this earth, that you could say they were service above self. Not many of us are, but it's a great example for our young people to see or read or hear about a guy like Alvin Sykes. You know, he was a wonderful guy, and a very nice gentleman. So today I went to the service, and this was a great tribute to him at the beautiful Metropolitan Baptist Church. And I was sitting there in the church today just thinking about how much history that Metropolitan has from Reverend Wallace Horsfield Sr., that how many people have graced the threshold of Metropolitan Baptist Church. So the service was there today. It was wonderful, and I was glad to be there to pay my respects. Again, a great tribute to Alvin Lee Sykes, service above self, better than some, and better than most. I thank you very much.
This program is brought to you by Clark Star